The idea that the fake president has Donald Trump has turned some new leaf and is now maturely leading the fight against the pandemic is yet again being exposed as a pure political play by his own behavior. Trump on Monday launched a fresh push to get states to quickly reopen their economies, ignoring the fact that his previous advice on such lines helped spark a surge of cases in the Sun Belt. Then the fake president retweeted a video in which a group of doctors make false claims about the virus, including one who says you don't need masks because hydroxychloroquine, an anti-malaria drug pushed by the fake president, is a cure in combination with several other drugs, which multiple credible scientific studies say that the treatment is ineffective against the COVID-19. The video, which went viral on YouTube, was later removed by Facebook and Twitter because it spread disinformation. It was just the latest occasion when Trump's scripted shows of responsibility about the virus, witnessed in his return to the White House press briefing last week, were undermined by what appears to be his true conspiratorial politicized views. Only last week, the fake president grudgingly became one of the last public officials to endorse the use of masks to slow the spread of the virus. Now, yet again, he is undercutting the government advice on this matter. Trump's latest wild swings on the virus came as Senate Republicans split that are, even though they're split over a new $1 trillion stimulus package, with some conservatives warning that maintaining federal unemployment benefits at current rates would deter a return to work as the virus rages and delays the restoration of the economy. The argument was a fresh sign that Trump and his allies on Capitol Hill are still fighting the pandemic they wish existed, rather than a virus that unfolds at its own pace and is oblivious to their artificial political and economic timetables. The Senate impasse predated exceedingly difficult negotiations with Democrats and will inevitably degenerate into a hyper-partisan struggle, given the stakes of the approaching election. But any delay could see millions of Americans who lost jobs and lockdowns deprived of most of the $600 a week federal government lifeline that has already paid out for the last time at previous levels. It also emerged Monday that Trump's national security advisor, Robert O'Brien, who works in the fake president's mask-free West Wing, tested positive for the virus, in a sign of how flaunting basic precautions leaves no one safe from infection, even if such steps are politically unpalatable. The machine, the machine, the machinery, the machinations in Washington unfolded against a backdrop of a crisis that is nowhere near fading, despite Trump's upbeat rhetoric. While there are signs that the latest explosion of sickness in southern and western states may be cresting, the situation still remains dire. On Monday, Johns Hopkins reported 56,336 new cases and 1,076 reported deaths on Monday. New reminders of how the virus has fractured American life came with news of the news outbreak in New Jersey, which endured many painful weeks of shutdowns to get the COVID-19 under control. And baseball's return is in turmoil only after 3 days, with Miami Marlins canceling 2 games after a number of coaches and players tested positive. Florida, in particular, has become a global ground zero for COVID-19 cases 2 months after Governor Ron DeSantis, fucking moron, stood outside the White House bragging about his state's success over the virus. Reflecting the fact that normality is many months away, Google said on Monday that its employers would work from home until at least July 2021, contradicting the fake president's new claim that a rapid economic recovery is already underway. The fake president has little patience for such long horizons anyway. He did spend last week trying to show Americans that after months of denial and indifference, he was now taking the virus seriously after his wildfire spread through states that followed his advice to open up early. But his remarks on Monday suggest that the fake president is still working not with the timetable set by the most prudent way to suppress the worst public health crisis in 100 years, but by the fast-dwindling timeline set by his re-election campaign. During a visit to North Carolina to tout vaccine development, Trump presented his habitually upbeat and misleading summary of a pandemic that is killing hundreds of Americans a day, and he betrayed impatience for even the hardest-hit states to turn the corner. These states are not out of the woods, but rigorous compliance with guidelines should allow them to turn the corner, and very, very quickly, the fake president said before turning his focus to other unidentified states. I really do believe a lot of the governors should be opening up the states, and that they're not opening, and we will see what happens with them. The cost of stay-at-home orders, lockdowns, restrictions on bars and restaurants and all service industries are savage and have caused deep economic and psychological misery across the country. But the lesson from the earliest state reopening that Trump championed while floating guidelines written by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is that opening up too quickly can cause out-of-control spikes for the disease. The fake president may now have in mind states like New York, which endured tragic fights against COVID-19 earlier this year, but they have been ultra cautious in fully reopening in an effort to prevent a return of high rates of infection. New York City has managed to reduce its infection rate, a key marker on the way to slowing transmission, to 1%. Mayor Bill de Blasio announced on Monday, and Maryland Republican Governor Larry Hogan, who imposed strict stay-at-home measures and has seen an uptick in cases mostly among younger people since slowly reopening, condemned Trump's rhetoric. We are in a holding pattern, and we're not ready to reopen anything, and we're not opening anything further. Hogan told CNN's Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. 22 states are now rolling things back that they had already reopened, and we are not in that position either. It's the same kind of messaging that the fake president had previously, and I think it's a mistake to return to that kind of messaging, as we are seeing flare-ups around the country. Trump's impatience appears to hint at a return to the gut-level calls on COVID-19 that are not based on scientific practice, but a desire to see the economy that he views as critical to his re-election firing on all cylinders at all costs. His frustration became clear at 150 prominent medical experts, scientists, teachers, nurses, and other experts who signed a letter urging leaders in Washington to shut down the country again and to start over to contain this virus. The best thing for the nation is to not reopen as quickly as possible. It's to save as many lives as possible, they wrote. But Trump's new opening demands mirror his calls for all schools to get back to full operation in coming weeks, while ignoring concerns among the parents, teachers, and administrations that are going too fast, and it would unleash a new virus wave. The fake president's comments also suggest that his more sober approach last week, that they saw him finally endorse the use of masks and warn the pandemic would get worse before it gets better, was what appeared to be at the time a PR effort precipitated by plunging election polls rather than a serious effort to reassess his approach to the pandemic. Republican senators on Monday rolled over a $1 trillion economic support bill to rival a $3 trillion version that's backed by the Democrats, although it does include another round of $1,200 checks for most Americans, which isn't good enough. An opening bid in talks with Democrats cuts $600 federal support payments to laid-off workers to $200, and that ain't good enough either. Democrats are demanding that the payments remain at $600 and dismiss Republican attempts to set up a system designed to replace 70% of the prior wages of the unemployed that would incentivize a return to work, that many observers say is not justified by any condition. The bill has split the Republican conference and has mystified many observers, since it includes a $1.75 billion plan for a new FBI headquarters in Washington that has nothing to do with the economic crisis sparked by the pandemic, and it will pose questions as to why the White House is ready to cut unemployed benefits, but is demanding financing for one of Trump's pet projects. GOP leadership in the Senate did, however, break with Trump's wishes by including billions more in their legislation to increase COVID-19 testing, though far less than what Democrats have said they wanted. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, one of the states now worst hit by the virus, said that there was significant resistance to spending another $1 trillion. The answer to these challenges would not simply be shoveling cash out of Washington. The answer to these challenges would be getting people back to work, Cruz said. The senator did not say how people should be expected to return to their jobs in the middle of a pandemic, and the notion of the reopening of the economy at all costs seems to ignore the need for mitigation measures to stop this spread. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York, said the cut to federal payments was a non-starter, and it disagreed with the GOP position that paying people $600 was an incentive for people to stay at home. The idea that we need to drastically reduce these benefits because workers will stay at home otherwise is greatly exaggerated, said Schumer. And with the duel over the bill now framing an explosive backdrop to congressional elections that will take place alongside the presidential race in November, GOP Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri, who serves in the party Senate leadership group, said it was just reality what a number of GOP senators would be opposed to, on a principle to the goals and specifics of that bill. when it comes to spending money on these kinds of things, a number of Republicans are just not going to be willing to do that, he said. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, Rambam Mike, and also make sure to hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And thanks for listening.